Neon is potentially one of the most broken agents in Valorant, being able to completely manipulate the pace of the game and catch players off guard with timings that they just don't need to deal with against any other agent. Timings are everything in Valorant, especially at the start of the round. When those spawn barriers drop, there is a set amount of time that it will take most agents to reach certain positions. Phoenix, for example, can't quite do anything special to help him take that space more quickly. However, Neon is able to completely change the game, allowing for you to pull off things other agents could only dream up. In this guide, we'll be showing you everything that you can do to abuse timings and take control of your games as Neon. Starting off with the ability that makes Neon so strong, High Gear. Those that know will tell you this is the ability that makes Neon Neon. It allows the player to sprint faster than any agent in the game, making Neon also one of the hardest to hit agents as well. Although the time to kill is quite low in Valorant, the faster you move, generally the harder you will be to hit, which definitely works to Neon's advantage. The best Neon players will even couple this movement speed with different actions, such as air strafing and bunny hopping to make themselves even harder to hit. Notice how Radiant Neon main Sero abuses Neon's speed to maneuver around an icebox. This stuff looks absolutely incredible, because it is, but you definitely don't need to do this to play Neon to her full effect. We do, however, recommend binding your secondary jump key to your mouse's scroll wheel to practice bunny hopping with her as you play. You can bunny hop by first jumping, and then as soon as you touch the ground, you will use your scroll wheel to initiate another jump. While doing this, your agent can keep their momentum and make themselves very difficult to hit. Combine this with air strafing by moving your mouse while jumping and holding the A or D keys, and you can make it very frustrating for the enemy team to land that first shot on you. Honestly, many times you'll see Neon players will put just taking space like this as their top priority, knowing that their teammates will be close behind for the trade on the off chance that the enemy does actually land the shot. One of the ways you might see them do this is by air strafing out of mid window on Haven. This sounds like a horrible idea in itself, but when done with a teammate, you can first air strafe out and pull the enemy's crosshair. Due to your movement speed, it's very unlikely they will be able to land this shot. Then when your teammate swings window, you will have already pulled the enemy's crosshair, giving your team an advantage in the duel. This is what makes Neon so good as an entry. She's able to get past those pesky choke points with insane movement speeds and create that space for your team like the duelist she is. Keep in mind, Neon can right click at any time while sprinting to initiate a massive slide that will allow her to pull out her gun quickly and take a duel on an enemy as they try to adjust. This slide will be in whatever direction you're holding whenever you right click, and it will take some practice. You can slide to the left, right, forwards, you can even slide backwards with enough practice. You do this by quite simply inputting whatever direction you'd like to slide and right clicking at the exact same moment. By executing the slide this way, you can quickly change what direction your character is moving and make it incredibly difficult for your enemies to track. This is best used around corners or while nearby enemies to force them to adapt their crosshair as much as possible. Also, be sure when using Neon Slide that you have equipped your primary weapon before entering the sprinting animation. This will ensure that your gun pulls out as fast as possible after exiting your slide. Otherwise, you'll have to go through an extended animation to equip your rifle, or worse, end up with your knife out. You can also change this setting to make it so that your character will always equip their strongest weapon when exiting an animation, which will help out a ton when playing Neon. One more important thing to keep in mind with Neon is that your fast movement speed all actually comes down to perspective. It can be very difficult to hit a good Neon player because they are very aware of how they are going to appear on the enemy's screen and how they can take advantage of that. Something you should consider in Valorant is that you never want to be running directly at a target that you're fighting. This applies for every agent, but it's especially important for Neon. Although while playing Neon you're very fast, you'll notice while sprinting directly at enemies, it doesn't exactly make it any more difficult for them to land their shot. Instead, you want to be running at as much of an angle around them as possible whenever taking fights. This also includes when sliding at enemies. You always want to be moving towards the side of the enemy rather than directly into them. Now, all this talk about how fast Neon is likely signifies to most that she is a very aggressive agent, which is definitely true. However, Neon is actually also one of the best duelists on defense as well, due to her ability to stop a push in its tracks with her relay bolt. At 2 charges around, this ability can effectively provide 4 different stuns against the enemy team when used properly, which is easily enough to stop any hard pushes, if at the very least for just a moment or two. It's important to keep in mind that relay bolt will bounce once after the first initial contact though, so if you're not careful you may end up stunning yourself as well. Whenever using this ability, we recommend bouncing it off a wall on your side or the ground to reduce the risk of stunning yourself. Due to the relay bolt's ability to stun multiple angles at once though, you can develop some really incredible lineups and get a ton of value out of this ability on both attack and defense. Take a look at this stun on Icebox. By throwing it above generator, it will stun both any players behind the gen as well as anyone who might be swinging rafters backside. This will give you a ton of room to scale up safely safely and take the site. Or on defense, by comboing this stun with some sort of Omen Blind or Breach Flash at the start of the round, you can almost guarantee free kills depending on the map you're playing on. Relay Bolt is easily one of Neon's strongest abilities when used correctly, so definitely don't sleep on it. As you can imagine, this ability is best used when combined with her crazy speed from high gear, allowing her to stun enemies from afar and then sprint in quick for the kill. Neon is only so strong on her own though. Remember that if you really want to play her to her full value, you definitely are going to want to combo her speed with other initiator utility. If you can get a KO or a Breach Flash to complement your movement speed, you will be golden. This is important for offense, but it also extends to taking space on defense. Many times a common strategy you'll see at the start of rounds on defense is your team's Omen, Breach, or KO will lob a flash to help your team take control of an area at the start of the round. Due to Neon's movement speed, this sort of setup can be quite the trap for the enemy team to fall into if they're not careful, and it can oftentimes result in 2, sometimes 3 kills when done right. Maps where those setups are incredibly common are Lotus, Fracture, and Ascent, but honestly, you can do this on any map in various locations if you're creative. One ability you may be starting to wonder about though is Fast Lane. This ability is one of Neon's more controversial abilities. Many Neons likely find a lot of value out of it. Others likely find that it hurts their team more than anything. The goal with Fast Lane is to use it to help yourself take space on site without giving the enemies too much space to hide in. You can do this by aiming it more towards the side of the site or even using it to block off key entrances that the defenders might use to retake. Keep in mind that by using our slide tactic that we talked about earlier, you can quickly exit the fast lane to whatever direction you choose, catching enemies off guard as you prepare for the duel. Just be careful that when exiting this ability, it is combined with some form of utility that gives you an advantage in a gunfight. As we mentioned before, this could be a Breach Fault Line, a Relay Bolt, an Omen Blind, or a KO Flash. Basically anything that will ensure that when you leave your wall, you're not going to get immediately killed in a location that none of your teammates can help you. Remember, one of the major mistakes Neon players make is overextending due to how fast they move. Just because you can move quickly does not mean that your teammates can follow you up just as fast, so you need to be mindful of the distance between you and your closest teammate and in what ways they can help you. Finally though, moving on to Neon's ultimate ability, Overdrive. When used, this ability will both refresh Neon's charge meter for her sprint as well as her slide. This is massive because it ensures you will have your ultimate for the next 20 seconds, and because of the refresh on the slide, you can even combo this by first sliding, then activating your ultimate, and immediately sliding again to create even more distance when pushing an enemy. This is what this combo would look like in game. What else does this ability do though? Well, it effectively allows Neon to fire a laser from her fingers that is similar to the damage output you might see from a Spectre or Bulldog. However, it has 0 recoil and can even be used while moving. The only thing that messes up the aim on Neon's ultimate is jumping, meaning that you basically always want to be moving to make yourself as difficult to hit. And remember what we said earlier, not moving directly towards your enemies, but instead taking advantage of your strafe movement to make yourself as difficult to hit as possible. Neon's ultimate will not one-shot enemies when you hit them in the head, but it will be close. So just like with the rifle, you always want to aim for the head, and just recognize that the only advantage this ultimate really provides you is the insane movement speed. So take advantage of this, always be moving. You will thank us later. Finally, with all of these abilities explained, it's time we broke down some actual rounds from professional Neon players to give you a better idea of what you should be doing to use this agent to her maximum effect. We'll be looking at Neons in matchmaking, because if we look at pro play, you'd likely see a lot of different team synergy that just isn't possible in ranked. We want this to be as applicable to your ranked experience as possible, so let's get right into it. Take a look at this clip from Tens on Fracture.
That's what I'm talking about. Oh wait, he's still inside. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. Oh my god.
It's pistol rounds, so the utility from the enemy team is going to be pretty minimal, which oftentimes works towards the attacker's advantage. You'll notice Tens starts off the round doing exactly what we were saying Neon is so good at, beating timings that no other agents can beat. He pops his high gear and sprints right past the enemy Breach's aftershock. By doing this, he's able to slide straight around the corner into a duel with the enemy Raze and land his first kill. This Raze definitely was not prepared for Tens to be here this fast and was completely caught off guard. Then you'll notice how Tens continues the push off this momentum by throwing out his fast lane to provide cover as he exits onto site. He exits off to the right here and goes top site. Notice this Cypher cage here. This is a big signifier that Cypher is playing on site right now, but Tens in a way kind of takes advantage of this knowledge by taking this opportunity to fight fight players coming out of CT. Of course, this does pose some potential risks. It's also likely to catch some defenders off guard, as if their Cypher is currently on site, they likely won't expect TenZ to be on top of him. TenZ lands the second kill of the round, and then you'll notice he immediately jumps off top site into a slide to get in the Cypher's face and finish him off for the third kill. Something that maybe we didn't mention before is that Neon's slide will also refresh every 2 kills, meaning that you can really ride the momentum in a round like this where you are fragging out. In this round, TenZ made great use of his movement speed and fast lane to really take control of the round and set his team up for a good win. Let's look at another round though. For this next clip, take note of how TenZ uses his fast lane once again to create a smooth path onto site. He did this a few times throughout the game. Sometimes he would go left out onto site, sometimes he'd go right into canteen. In this round, he walks out of the back of site silently to keep enemies guessing. By mixing it up like this, you can keep your opponents on your toes so they never really know what play you're going to make. In this case, TenZ doesn't end up getting an entry, but does take the space and hold spawn, giving his team time to scale up while he waits for the Cypher ultimate. Afterwards, before the Brimstone smoke fades, you'll notice he picks up a new angle towards Arcade, getting ready for the post plant. Soon afterwards though, as TenZ gets smoked off, it's clear he needs to take action. He throws out a relay bolt to buy his team some time on site, and then quickly peeks Arcade one last time to ensure nobody is flanking. Because Cypher's ultimate pinged someone flank earlier, it's very possible that someone might be coming here late, but by peeking this, he knows he can focus all of his efforts on site, and that's when the round starts for him. After turning around, he holds the smokes briefly, landing a kill onto the enemy Brimstone walking out of it. Massive blunder! Walking through smokes like this is hardly ever a good idea, and this completely throws the numbers advantage that his team had. Soon after this, TenZ makes the same decision to walk into this smoke to try and get into the action. Generally, you don't really want to just walk into smokes like this. We saw what happened to the Brimstone walking out of it, but TenZ doesn't really have an option. If he goes tower, he'll likely get stuffed with utility and not be able to prevent the spike defusal. He could maybe go underneath into sewers, but this would take quite a long time, and the spike isn't even planted for him if he does this. If he did go under, he'd leave Cypher all alone on site to save the round, so that likely isn't the play either. TenZ is forced to take this risk, and lucks out by landing a great kill onto the enemy Raze. The round isn't over though, it's still 2v1. TenZ wants to put some pressure onto the enemy Cypher, so you'll notice immediately after this Raze kill, he slides out towards Generator. This takes advantage of Neon's movement to reposition himself into a spot that he knows Cypher will not be able to kill him. He divides the enemy's attention. The defending Cypher wants to go towards the spike to defuse, but he can't exactly just run away from TenZ right now. At this point, the round is positionally won for TenZ. These two clips, keep in mind, are pretty puggy. That's just generally how ranked plays out, but you can definitely see how Neon can really catch enemies off guard and take control of the game. Let's look at one final clip. For this clip, take a look at how TenZ uses his relay bolt on defense to set himself up to make plays.
Okay. I think Arcade's so far.
90 damage, nice play.
Good job. Careful, Arcade.
We start out this round as TenZ is rotating over to help hold the site. This is something Neon is exceptional at on defense due to her movement speed. At times, it may feel like she can be everywhere all at once. TenZ arrives early enough to site to be pretty confident that they aren't all out yet, so you'll notice he immediately fires a relay bolt towards the entrance of site and quickly runs out of the smoke to try and hold it. Because of how quick he was with his rotation and entry, TenZ is able to make his way onto site and find his first kill of the round onto the enemy Raze. You'll notice he even lands a clean spray transfer onto her boombot to prevent any unwanted damage. Picking off the duelist like this early into the entry is fantastic, and it's a really good sign for his team being able to hold site. It's not over yet though. Immediately after, TenZ is hit with a fault line. For most agents, they'd likely get stalled by this, but he's quick with activating his high gear and is able to reposition before it stuns him. This is phenomenal because enemies exiting out of this smoke likely are going to expect him to be stunned. Then, as we mentioned earlier, you'll see he quickly fires a relay bolt into the ground. This not only will stun any enemies trying to scale up to capitalize on the fault line, but will also bounce off the ground and land to the right of the entrance towards Canteen. This is the perfect stun, as regardless of where enemies try to push, they will be hit by it. Sure enough, he swings out to land a kill onto the enemy arena, and then finally finishes off the round with one final kill towards Arcade. Whew, Neon really is a fast-paced agent, but you can see how much value you can get out of her kit when played right. If you're the type of player that likes to move fast and take complete control over a game, Neon is definitely the type of agent for you. Remember though, if you're looking for guides on how to play Neon on every single map, over at SkillCapped.com, we've got you covered. Our site recently got a brand new overhaul that is getting a ton of praise, making it that much easier to find the courses that you need to improve. Not only that, but our site subscription now comes with complete access to our Radiant coaches in the SkillCapped Discord, where they will look at your game gameplay and give you feedback on how to improve every aspect of your play. Remember, all the VOD reviews our coaches do for subscribers just like you are also uploaded onto the website so you can learn from each other's issues and climb as fast as possible. It sounds like it couldn't get any better, but if you don't rank up, we'll literally give you your money back. Sounds too good to be true, we know. So what are you waiting for? Check out SkillCapped.com and we'll see you there. As always, we want to thank you all for watching though, and we'll catch you in the next one.